and on air.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stuart Rawson. I'm a member of the board of RBCC. Next month, it'll be my 25th anniversary in Russia. And I can honestly say I've not had a year like this. I don't think any of us have had a year like this. And this next panel, without trying to get into a competition with previous panels, I think is really an extremely critical one. Nobody actually anywhere in the world is uninterested in this topic. I think on a day when the President of the United States and his wife get the virus, and we're all trying to work out what that means, I think it's pretty clear that this is an existential issue that all of us need to address. I guess if I was to make one comment, it would be to pick up on what Johan was saying about international cooperation and the danger of politicizing these sort of topics. And I just make the point that the vaccine issue is one that affects everyone, and it would be great if the world could avoid getting into its separate corners. Of course, that may be just a hope. Luckily, we have a great panel to talk about this, and we have a super moderator, Dan Connolly, who is well known to all of you, I guess. He's the president of DT Global Business Consultancy, and I'll hand over to him at this point. Dan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and a warm welcome to all of you. I'm going to speak for 3 or 4 minutes only, setting the scene, and then introduce Natalia, Olshas, Camille, and Mikhail in the order that the program was sent to me. And then I think you've each got, let's say, 4 or 5 minutes of remarks, and then we'll try and get into some Q&A into discussion between ourselves and finish off in 50 minutes or so. Yes, as you say, Stuart, the health and pharmaceutical industry globally is absolutely critical. I've been following Russia for about 33 years. I first visited Leningrad in 1978 as a young student, I should say. And I am a Russophile, which means I like Russia and the Russian people and culture. Doesn't mean I have to like the government all the time. First comment is, and I think we all would agree, that the American and the Russian health systems are far from ideal, and they will be tested, and they are being tested at the moment. Generally, and I work with about 40 of the major pharmaceutical and medical companies of the world amongst the 340 companies I work with, pharmaceutical and health in Russia and globally is obviously the best performing sector in business in terms of top line revenues in rubles or across Europe and in terms of profitability. I think again you all know that Russia went through an austerity program 2015, 16, 17.
Danny, sorry to interrupt. Can you just switch your language tab to English, please? Let's call
sure.
At the bottom.
It is on English.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As far as I know, I'm speaking English.
Yeah, that's good. Are you in the English tab?
Right. Can you hear me in English? I can hear you in Natalia in English. Yeah.
Good.
Are we okay now? Shall I continue?
Good. Yeah, please.
Good. No problem. So selling into the essential drugs list, selling to the government in those years was hard work. Austerity, localization, and so forth. The national projects came along and kicked in 2019, and day and night, certainly for local companies and Western pharmaceutical and medical companies. Big double-digit growth, oncology, cardiology, but across the sectors as well. Then with the COVID virus, more impact on health, and my group members in the sector are saying we had an excellent 2019 and we're having a good 2020. Executives were understandably worried about what will happen to the national projects. Will the tenders change? Will the pricing change, affecting profitability? And of course, the national projects have moved on and been pushed back to terminate in 2030, not 2024. So that means presumably annually there'll be less money available annually, but it will still, I think we all agree, still be a positive to social spending and health spending and pharmaceuticals in Russia. The next point I want to set as a general thing is, will the Russian government go back to austerity next year or in 2022? This is a question I'm asked by all sectors, but especially, of course, pharmaceutical and health. My view is it would be catastrophic to plunge back to austerity spending, and my guess is that the government will do a Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. By that I mean the budget deficit before COVID was on a surplus. We've gone to -4 this year, and the consensus is -2% budget deficit next year. If that's correct, it means the government will take the foot off the accelerator of social and health spending, but it will not stop it completely, of course, because they'll have that deficit still. The economy ministry, of course, is saying we don't want to spend money in the future. That's what all treasuries and economics ministers say everywhere. The Ministry of Economic Development in Russia is saying we need to spend more. So you're seeing newspaper articles, you're seeing drafts and so on, and we'll probably know more in November, December about what the plans are, which might have to be changed anyway when we meet reality in 2021. I think also globally, the Central Europe and Russia were two of the good performing regions for business, outside pharmaceuticals as well. We're seeing the second wave start. It's not a surprise or shock, but it's how we're going to handle it and how long it will last. The unknowns as well for the business. So I think pharmaceutical and health will continue. It's a different time from the past when we were looking at high single-digit ruble growth. It's much more variable depending on which subsector of pharmaceutical and health you are in. By the way, selling through pharmacies, OTC, for those companies who are in that sector, historically in the past that was very good double-digit growth. Then that came down in 18-19, but at the start of this year we saw a lot of Russians, of course, wanting to buy health products, vitamins and so forth in an effort to stay healthy. But the Russian consumer, like everybody else, will normalize and probably fade downwards a little bit going forward. Just to tell two more things now, 2 sentences. Next year, our surveys show that the pharmaceutical companies I work with are looking at solid single-digit, upper single-digit ruble growth, and some are looking at double-digit. Still, we have about 15% who plan to be flat negative. That as a sector is very good, coming off a good 2019 and a reasonable 2020. Localization could take a session by itself. It's been going on for 4 or 5 years. The government pulled people on board. It was very unknown, uncertain, confused for several years, but I think many of you have got your heads around it and understand it much more clearly now than we did. It was certainly a learning process on both parts. Last sentence. The ruble next year will average 71 to 74 to the dollar and 80 to 83 to the euro. If you want me to explain on that later in another forum, I'll be very happy to do so, or to send you a 3-page email on the topic. I think we got volatility for the rest of this year, and then on a best case basis, mid case basis, the world rationalizes, stabilizes, and we do pick up the optimism that was talked about in the previous forum session. I think that we see a pickup on a mid-case basis, and Russia does reasonably well out of that. Therefore, the ruble would stabilize in a more stable world. I think that's me now, just setting the scene as a moderator, and I'd first like now to follow that agenda that I suggested and turn first to you, Natalia, Biomedical Technologies Cluster, Skolkovo Foundation. Welcome.
Natalia, sorry, are you in English? Your language tab. Sorry for interrupting. They're saying like, is your language tab on English? The audience is saying they can't hear you in English.
I can hear you in English.
You're in the Zoom, that's why it's a stream. Can you check your language tab at the bottom where the American flag is? Is it in English? It's at the bottom of your screen. If you just hover with your mouse or your cursor, there's a tab with an American flag.
Interpretation, yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. It's okay, yeah. 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 And if you're speaking in English, please put on the English tab.
Okay.
Thanks.
By the way, it should be a British flag, not an American flag.
Okay. So I hope that at least in our group you have heard me. Yes? No? Or should I repeat everything?
Yes,
that's fine.
We heard you, don't worry.
Okay, good. So actually, and now in the first surge of COVID-19, the Skolkovo Foundation supported innovation solutions in all key areas I mentioned before and elaborated the basis for the effective support of the healthcare system in the fight against the second wave of COVID-19. So it includes new regulations, fast-track system implemented to support anti-COVID-19 projects. We also just reviewed more than 30 projects, and 10 of them supported as a priority development for diagnostic, treatment, and prevention of the spread of coronavirus infection. The special track was launched to finance project aimed to fight COVID-19 as a part of the federal digital economy project. So, and also we just enable startups to obtain access to the patient's laboratory materials. And it was very important and crucial for R&D processes. So we have a lot of success stories, but actually what I would like to mention as a second very important point, that certainly a number of COVID-19 vaccines will be approved across the globe within the next 6, probably 12 months, but efficacy, safety, and production capacity are still the challenges to be overcome. But however, now it's not possible to imagine modern drug discovery, vaccine candidate search without cross-cutting digital technologies. Apart from the virtual care directly triggered by COVID-19, such as telehealth, AI-powered clinical decision support system, first of all in radiology, the pandemic accelerated growth in such areas as mental health with conditions like depression and anxiety being exacerbated by the first surge of the COVID-19. In other areas are women's health and chronic care management, which are quickly becoming one of the most crowded areas of the digital therapeutics. So, but the key lesson to be learned after the first wave of the pandemic is urgent call for global changes in the healthcare system across the world. And we believe in Skolkovo that smart clinic solution is a cornerstone of this transformation. Why smart clinic is the most demanded model, and why we believe that this is the case. First of all, we know also well known that the smart clinic approach one of the top 3 investment areas in the healthcare sector, because only smart hospital leveraging innovative cutting-edge technologies connected by Internet of Medical Things is capable to overcome current challenges of the healthcare system while demonstrating positive financial outcomes. So we believe that actually smart streamlining of the patient flow, innovative technologies, patient centricity, standardization and effective processes integration inside and outside of the smart hospital just enable to arrange medical care in the second wave of the pandemic in the most effective way, not only from economical point of view, but first of all from the patient point of view and the healthcare workers point of view. The key technologies, innovative technologies of the smart clinic, such as artificial intelligence, robotics, precision medicine, genomic, augmented and virtual reality, telehealth and 3D printing, all of them are currently under development and scope of our ecosystem. So implementing these digital technologies enable us not only to protect better life of our people in the fight with the new surge of COVID-19, but also realize cost saving over 10% of overall annual national healthcare expenditure. And this is the result, the numbers which provided in the course of the very comprehensive research conducted by McKinsey. This is the two key points which I would like to just tackle here and probably just to put as a discussion point. So some kind of unique situation when all globe are just developing the same innovative technologies just in fighting COVID, but in reality fighting the unexpected, the state of emergency, I would say. And the second, of course, this approach, which we believe can dramatically change in a positive way the supply of medical care and significantly improve the results of the outcomes after the second wave of the pandemic. Thank you. So this is from my part.
Daniel, you're on mute.
Yeah. Sorry.
I've only done this 10,000 times. Yeah. And thank you, Natalia. What I'd like to, I've made a couple of questions for later, but as a courtesy to the other speakers, I'd like to bring them in so they don't get crushed for time reasons, and then we can go from there. Olshas of AstraZeneca, I work with your colleagues, well-known company, and you are especially in the news as well at the moment. Please, your take on things.
Yeah, thank you very much. Certainly, this was correctly pointed out, this was a very difficult year for us, especially given that we are in a race to make the vaccine as soon as possible, and you know, it creates so much, such a huge pressure on us because we are not only responsible globally to make a vaccine, but also we are working in Russia with our Russian partner so that we can not only produce vaccine for Russian citizens, but also that our Russian partner can export this vaccine to other countries. So that's a lot of effort, not only from us, but also from the Russian side. At the same time, we have seen lots of issues with that all these quarantine measures put on the healthcare system, especially given that lots of patients had problems with an access to the doctors and medicines, and that's understandable because we had quarantine measures, we had to isolate people, especially elderly and patients with chronic diseases. So, and my understanding that it is one of the key concerns of the government, not only in Russia but elsewhere, on how to create such a system that would care for these patients in the future, because I'm sure that will face new epidemics in the following years, especially given all these problems with antibiotic resistance and increase in travel and so on and so forth. Also, as Natalia pointed out, there's a huge demand for telemedicine and digitalization, especially given that we need to separate as much as possible patients from the doctors. So if there is a possibility to track the patient, to track its data, its vital data distantly, then it's a great support for us. And we, as AstraZeneca, cooperating with Skolkovo on these various projects in digital sphere and telemedicine. You know, as usual, well, when there is a problem, there is an opportunity, and we're seeing that Russian government is making lots of effort to modernize the regulation, and when they're seeing with all these problems. So, and we are hoping that when we come out of this whole problem, we'll come out changed with better mechanisms for drug provision, for provision of better health, and with better facilities and measures. So as a company, we're seeing lots of opportunities for improvement, and not only problems with all this quarantine, COVID, and the pandemic issue. So that would be my take on this question.
Thank you very much, Olshas. And Camille, over to you. Very nice to see you again. I think last time was at one of the British Embassy events, and of course I've been in your office many times. Very nice to see you again, Camille. How is it with you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Danny. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm also speaking in English, so hope the translation works. Yeah, thanks very much for basically inviting me to this session, right? And I want to start by thanking the Russian Chamber of Commerce. Stuart, you have all of your colleagues in the chamber for kind of being resilient and kind of conducting this event, right? Which is a very famous now, an annual RussiaTALK event, which, as we all know, you hold this time in a very unique and unprecedented circumstances. And in particular, I want also to say I'm extremely happy that you reflected the healthcare right as a separate topic in this year's forum, and understanding right the importance of healthcare and the pharmaceutical sector for both Russia and UK. We are very kind of passionate in terms of looking to the prospects of the cooperation between Russia and UK in the area of healthcare and pharmaceuticals, right? Provided that this is clearly a priority for both governments, both countries. The pharmaceutical sector in the UK is very famous and well known across the globe, and also Russia is building the program to increase the competitiveness of the pharmaceutical sector of the industry via Pharma 2020 plan, and we know that the government is currently discussing the Pharma 2030 plan, right? So the longer-term strategy to build the pharmaceutical industry. I also think that just to take an opportunity, very important to thank all the healthcare providers, right, across the globe in Russia, UK, and other countries, for taking the leadership in that kind of tackling the COVID-19 crisis, but also continuing to care and support patients with other communicable and non-communicable diseases that patients are suffering from. So clearly, this is a very extraordinary threat to public health, which is having a huge consequences, right, direct and indirect, from the COVID-19 pandemic. Starting from March, we have seen the unprecedented level of mobilization of the healthcare system, of the state, of the government, and also of the pharmaceutical industry. And we in GSK, we have implemented a plan which basically included 3 key priorities, right? Each of which were equally important for us. So basically, number one is health and safety of our employees and of our customers, right, of our patients in clinical trials, of doctors with whom we cooperate, etc., etc. The second priority is the supply and business continuity, right? So we've been working hard jointly with regulators to ensure that we minimize the risk of disrupting the supply chain of our products. And we've seen a lot of challenges, particularly with logistics, as in the beginning of the crisis, the borders were closed, right? Traditional logistics routes were disrupted, so it's critically important for us to secure the supply chain, right, and to maintain the continuity of the supply of our medicines to our patients. Likewise, it was important for us to ensure business continuity in other areas of our work, for example, in clinical trials, right? So we have been working with study investigators to continue clinical trials while ensuring the appropriate safety measures for our patients and study participants. And the third key priority is, as we call it, solutions. So clearly the pharmaceutical industry, we are at the spotlight at the moment. This is the industry with which everyone associates the hopes for medicines and vaccines. So medicines to treat the disease and vaccines to prevent COVID-19. And the companies are working hard. Basically, even competitors now are looking into the opportunities to enter into the partnerships to accelerate the development of treatments and the development of, most importantly, vaccines, right? And we all know that multiple vaccines to prevent COVID-19 will be needed, right? And the world will need hundreds of millions and probably billions of doses of vaccines, which will need to be manufactured at a huge scale. And there are specific technologies such as adjuvant technologies, for example, which basically allow us to scale up the production of vaccines, so-called pandemic technologies that allow to produce vaccines at large scale. Talking about solutions, I think also worth mentioning that the industry is working with the partners on the donation, on the charity and donation front. I believe it's very important for companies, right, including pharmaceutical companies, to stay connected with society via charities, right, and basically try to do our best to continue supporting vulnerable communities via charity funds, right? So trying to support people who need the support from the business. I also want to basically raise a couple of points here, since the topic of the panel is the healthcare at the time of a pandemic. We all hope that this crisis will trigger a bigger focus on the healthcare system. So despite a lot of progress, right, made in the past few months, I think worth mentioning here is that the overall healthcare spend in Russia is 3.5 GDP, well, definitely less than 4% GDP, versus 6-7% spending that we have in the countries of, for example, Eastern Europe, which are quite comparable to Russia in terms of the economy. And we are wondering whether this crisis will be kind of a trigger point to revisit the healthcare funding plan, which, despite again lots of improvements with the national projects, etc., the overall funding is still far low comparing to many other countries. The last point I want to bring is the need to build a stronger and sustainable healthcare system. What we've seen in March and April is that the planned medical care was interrupted, right? So people couldn't get vaccinations against vaccine-preventable diseases. People with asthma or diabetes often couldn't get to a hospital or a polyclinic. So the situation clearly is not sustainable as the crisis is extended for many months. And basically, the system needs to adapt to continue care for those people who are dealing with other conditions not directly related to COVID, such as cancer, diabetes, asthma, HIV, and many other diseases. So a huge challenge to ensure the pharmaceutical sector can play its role in supporting HTPs and the government in resolving this crisis.
Thank you very much, Camille. You touched upon two topics that I want to bring up later. One is, is there too much focus on COVID. Let's rephrase that. Not enough focus on the non-COVID aspects, which is what you raised. I think that's a global question and one I will address to everybody afterwards. And one, of course, is the spend and the efficient spend on the pharma and health industry in Russia. And I'll come back and phrase those questions to everybody. And then first, though, I'd like to bring you in, Mikhail. Welcome. And we'd like to hear your comments, and then we'll go further. Thank you.
Daniel, thanks a lot, and greetings, everybody. It's an honor to be here in this panel. A few words about ourselves. Some of you might know Petrovac is a Russian mid-cap immunobiological producer. We are many businesses under one roof, and that's a bit of a hybrid. So we do sell vaccines to the state, and that's a big chunk of our business. But we're also selling our products through Russian pharmacies, so we're kind of seeing the dynamics in both markets, which you've previously commented on. And yeah, obviously 2020 has been a healthy year for us, and it still is. We are in a whirlwind of events. It all started with us originating the clinical trial. We're trying our product intensively in COVID prevention and COVID treatment trials, and that's humbly the largest COVID clinical trial in Russia being conducted today, other than the vaccine one. Obviously, you can imagine how much pressure it puts on the team, and if this weren't enough, we also partnered in the beginning of this year with a Chinese vaccine developer and producer, a company called Consino, and again, we were the first to get approval for phase 3 clinical trials in Russia back in August, and we are in the middle of conducting our it's a rather convoluted situation. We're conducting so-called step 1 of phase 3 clinical trial for 600 participants, and just yesterday we applied for step 2 with 8,000 participants to take part in Russia in this trial. For a company of our size, that's a bit of a stretch, I would say. So I'm dreaming of vacation and may probably see my kids slightly more, but so does every member of the team. But we understand that it's our responsibility to keep pushing forward. And speaking of priorities for this year, other than these two, we obviously moved into the year with a number of priorities. Then we had super priorities, then super high priorities, and now we're just, okay, let's do this, everybody. And obviously, but something which Kamil rightfully mentioned, the biggest challenge probably of all was maintaining continuity of supply. And through spring and summer, and even now we see the echoes. When something got disrupted somewhere, and then it gets you down the production chain, because yeah, these plastic bags are no longer available for primary production. So where do we get those? And we literally send a private jet to South Africa to grab a number of relatively cheap items to bring them here to make sure we are responsible state supplier. Just finishing and maybe elaborating a bit on what you mentioned, looking forward of what the markets will behave, and obviously seeing that the consumer market has been slowing down gradually over the past 5 years, while the government spending has been increasing, and trying to understand where it will go forward. I think we internally, in seeing what we want to do, we decided that we do not really want to kind of be so much reliant on where the market dynamics is, because it changes, and you should basically be a fish able of swimming upstream, and that's what we tend to be. Because when we acquired, by saying we, I mean Interos, when we acquired this company 6 years ago, it had 3 billion rubles in revenue, half of which was one state contract, which is no longer with us, so basically it halved in some time, and I think this year we will top 12 billion, maybe 13. So it's all about the intrinsic dynamics, which is definitely here. And our principle is be bold, probably, and that's the same which worked with the localization. As you mentioned, the framework is not clear, but the direction is. If you localize, your chances increase. So you cannot really see the next point where it will help you, but if you're local, you increase your probability of achieving the ultimate success. That's how it worked with our product, and I think that's the framework of our thinking forward with this part of the business. And lastly, what's beyond COVID? And that's true. We literally had this question in a meeting this morning discussing our clinical program for our own drug. So what's beyond COVID?
And for us, it is generally, I think it's linear what the government is looking to achieve. It's experts. We think Russian pharmaceutical companies should be gradually raising their eyes towards foreign markets, and responsibly so. We are currently, I think we are one of the 3 largest exporters in Russia, which compared to our relatively small size does mean something. And here I think COVID will be a big booster. Never ever has it been so easy to have a meeting with the CEO of your partner company by literally agreeing it and dropping him a Zoom link and having it the same very evening or the next day. And I think we've had more foreign contacts in the past 6 months than we did in the previous 6 years. And we've already achieved some new registrations. I mean, we have registered a product in Bolivia. God knows why Bolivia, but why not? We are working with a team of experts from United Kingdom who are greatly helping us and spearheading our expert efforts. And so I think with this new sentiment adopted, it's been a huge shake-up for everybody, every industry and every company. And I think ultimately it will play for the better. It's like a stress which will definitely not kill us all, and thus make us stronger. That's where I would love to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Mikhail. Thanks all of you for being succinct and on time as well. And let's open it up. Really, anybody who wants to come back now with a follow-up, if I could frame it a little bit, but it's not compulsory, obязательно. This thing about the global and Russian challenge of, if there's so much in COVID, how can we manage and rebuild the normal health provisions? And then if I may personalize it, as I said at the start, I'm Russophile, and this is said as somebody who appreciates and admires Russia. I think the people on this webinar are even more experienced of this than I am. I have many Russian friends, and some of them are doctors and nurses. Some of them are nurses who are on a salary per month of 50 to 80,000 rubles, so not a very large amount of money. I've never been in a hospital in Russia for medical reasons, personal ones, but I have visited to see my friends and colleagues, a private hospital in Moscow City, world class. I've been into a semi-private public hospital in Moscow, which was good quality, mixed. I've been into a public hospital in Moscow Oblast, which was not a positive experience. And I've been into a public hospital, number 5 in Nizhny Novgorod. And that was a very disturbing experience on the quality. The people, of course, working hard, but not, to Kamil's point, not enough investment, not enough money, not enough anything. So my follow-up question to that is, as I said at the start, and it's the very big question, and Kamil referred to the money, but we know it's not just money. How do you spend money efficiently in a health system? So one of my follow-up questions would be, what focus do we have, and how do we mix and match it? And, is the Russian health service capable of surviving a strong wave of COVID and managing regular ailments of the people as well? And anything else you might want to say? Who would like to kick off? It's all gone quiet. Kamil, maybe I will turn to you. I think you raised a couple of the points, so if you could elaborate more, please.
Yeah, well, yes, Danny, thank you. Basically, I will just, reiterate the point I was making. As soon as you have the system with the overall 3.5 max 4% GDP healthcare spend, it is not sustainable, right, a longer term. And basically, I would tend to agree with I think that was the president of the National Medical Chamber was saying that it is probably too challenging to discuss, right, how efficiency in the healthcare system could be improved with such a low overall level of funding, right? So I'm not talking about specific activities. I think everyone knows that in the past a couple of years, the government has made a huge effort in terms of investments and acceleration of certain policies in certain areas such as cancer, oncology, for example. Also, certain elements of vaccination policies, they also get kind of an acceleration, but overall kind of a focus on the healthcare system. We believe it needs to be revisited. If you look into the challenges, clearly the COVID-19 is a huge challenge, right? And then something that no one could forecast. However, there are multiple experts across the globe who are kind of promoting the idea of a pandemic preparedness, right? And basically, without horrifying, right, anyone in this panel, right, and the participants of the forum, there are hundreds of microbes, right, and viruses which may potentially lead to the outbreaks of the infectious diseases, and it's very clear that the healthcare system and the epidemiological surveillance system needs to have this kind of pandemic preparedness as we move forward. But having said that, with all the challenges with COVID-19, we have more than 80,000 new patients diagnosed with a diagnosis of HIV in Russia, right? So we have 36 regions in Russia, which, as Rospotrebnadzor, our infectious disease agency, is calling them the high impacted regions with HIV. So basically, more than 0.5% of the population infected. And there are many other examples across the disease areas: diabetes, cancer, respiratory illness such as asthma and COPD, and basically everyone expects now that the healthcare system will adapt to meet these challenges, right? And the planned medical care will be continued at a time of a pandemic, which will last for probably more months. And basically there are multiple techniques, right, that regulators, governments across the globe are trying to implement. Huge potential clearly with digital, and also there are opportunity to significantly improve regulatory conditions for certain medicines. Just to give an example, one of the key trends we're seeing now is that governments are trying to accelerate regulatory approvals for medicines, which basically allow people to take them at home, right, without visiting healthcare organizations. So we have so-called at-home administrations, right, for certain drugs, which basically mean that patients can take them at home without need to visit hospitals. And that's just one of the examples, right, how the healthcare system can basically adapt. And those technologies are getting kind of accelerated regulatory approvals and also reimbursement approvals. So these are some thoughts from my side.
Thank you. Camille, I have a quick follow-up question, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot for a quick answer. Russian government health spending the next 2 years, will it go up, stay the same, or go down?
It's a challenging, it's a challenging question, Danny. I think much will depend on the areas of spend, right? So the investments are disproportionate. And then, by the way, talking about the medicines provision, I think in Russia overall it's quite unbalanced. So I mean, there are certain disease groups such as oncology, for example, where patients overall get access to treatments, while there are other disease groups where basically to get medicine, a patient needs to either go to hospital, right? So I mean, get kind of an acute condition which will require hospitalization, or he or she will need to kind of get a so-called disability status, right? So will need to become an invalid, disabled person. So and overall, we have no more than 10% of the population who are basically eligible to the free access to medicines. But in terms of investments, the answer is I don't know, but probably it will remain same, provided that there will be some investments in certain areas, including vaccination, right? We are seeing some strong focus on flu, for example, but also on the downside, clearly the financial deficit and some austerity measures that we know the finance ministry and the healthcare ministry are now trying to implement across their programs. So kind of a
gentleman and lady, I'm sorry to interrupt, Dan. We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah,
and
I saw that, Stuart.
As the ambassadors waiting in the lobby, as it were.
Right. Okay, Natalia, if I could, I'd wanted to turn to you. Digitalization and the modernization, innovation. Obviously, that will help the vanguard and the expensive end of the health sector. Do you think it will be transforming and helping at the roots level, access to doctors? Can it be comprehensive and universal and help making sure that more than 10% of the population get free access? Can it be a sort of an equalizer or a social differentiator in your view?
Yeah, thank you for this question, Daniel. Actually, we think that digital transformation of the healthcare really will leverage the availability of the healthcare to all social group of population, including far located regions. Of course, telehealth solutions, first of all, supporting this. And now regulations, especially in the state of emergency, also just support the telemedicine services to be provided for all patients, first of all, not COVID patients. We're also in a very close connection with the governmental structures just to develop so-called complex digital projects on non-COVID very serious issues, which is just facing our healthcare. Oncology, first of all, of course, on the first place, and this is digital pathology and digital pathomorphology. So this is a very complex digital solutions for scaling up across the country, which will be based on our innovative, unique AI-based technologies, and will really just have very serious economical impact, just saving some budget for the further spending on improving on health care to wider population. So I think that continuing support of innovations in Russia is also crucial part of this healthcare agenda, because otherwise we will be really stuck and cannot just operationally resolve the current difficult situation. So let's see, and most participants here were really very closely collaborating with the international pharmaceutical companies just in developing such new approaches to the healthcare. So I think that in our synergy we will be more strong and just capable to deliver more in this country, despite, of course, some shortage of the budget. That's clear.
Thank you, Natalia. Mikhail Olshas, sorry I couldn't bring you in with time reasons, but Stuart, I'd like to hand back to you and give my thanks to everybody on the webinar this afternoon, and all the best to you, Stuart.
Thank you very much indeed. That was a great panel, and it is a shame that we have such time limitations with so much material to cover. Thank you all for helping us stay on track, and I think the next session will be of interest to everyone. Thank you.
All the best, everybody. Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you. Bye.